Mason Cole had been camping alone in the Cascade Mountains for 3 days. He liked being away from people. No phone signals reached this far into the woods. No hikers walked these paths. It was just him and the wild. Tonight the stars would put on a show. A meteor shower was coming. Mason sat outside his small green tent with a cup of hot coffee. He waited for the sky to light up with falling stars. The first few streaks of light were normal. Small, white, quick. But then came something Mason had never seen before. A huge ball of fire cut through the night sky. It made a noise so loud that Mason's ears hurt. The strange thing was the color. The fireball burned with blue-green flames that no normal fire should make. Mason watched, unable to look away, as the object disappeared behind a hill about 2 miles from his camp. When it hit the ground, Mason felt the earth shake under his feet. His first thought was to pack up and leave. This could be dangerous. But another part of him wanted to see what had fallen from the sky. All night he thought about it. By morning, his need to know had won. The sun was just coming up when Mason reached the crash site. Smoke still rose from the ground. What he found was not a rock from space. It was a ship. The outside was silver and smooth, even though parts of it were burned. Strange patterns covered its surface. When Mason looked away and then back, the patterns seemed to move. Part of the ship had broken open. Mason could see darkness inside. As he got closer, something moved in the shadows. A shape stepped out into the light. It was not human, but it was shaped like a person. The being stood a bit taller than Mason. Its skin was pale purple and seemed to glow slightly. Its eyes were the strangest part, completely black with no white parts or pupils and too big for its face. The way it moved was smooth but pained, like it was hurt. The purple being suddenly fell forward. Without thinking, Mason ran to catch it. The skin felt cool against his hands, like touching stone that had been in the sun for a short time. The being weighed less than it should have. When those big black eyes looked at him, Mason felt a strange pressure in his head. It didn't hurt, but he could feel it. "I'm going to help you," Mason said, even though he didn't think the being would understand. "Can you walk?" The being's mouth didn't move. But Mason heard a voice in his mind, clear as day. "The others will come, they always do." Mason helped the strange visitor back toward his camp. The sun seemed to hurt its eyes. He took off his jacket and held it up to make shade. The being leaned on him as they walked. Back at the tent, the purple being curled up. It was shaking even though the day wasn't cold. "Are you cold?" Mason asked. He offered his sleeping bag. "My species regulates temperature differently," said the voice in his head. "Proximity helps." Mason sat next to the being in his small tent. It moved closer to him, pressing against his side. It seemed to be taking his body heat. The whole thing felt very strange. "Who's coming for you?" Mason finally asked. "Are they coming to rescue you?" The laugh in his mind sounded bitter. "Not rescue, hunters. I'm what your people might call a criminal." Mason tensed up. He suddenly realized how alone he was with this stranger. "What did you do?" "I stole information. Knowledge that could change who holds power between worlds." The large eyes studied his face. "My species, the Virali, we study other civilizations. We've been watching Earth for hundreds of years." "Watching us? Why?" Mason asked. "To understand, to learn, to find out if you're ready." "Ready for what?" "The war that's coming." The being moved and reached for something strapped to its wrist. The device projected a map of stars into the air. Mason gasped. "These are the contested worlds. Your planet is here." A small blue dot blinked at the edge of the map. "My people believe humans should develop on their own. The Corvat Alliance believes you should be harvested." "Harvested?" Mason felt sick to his stomach. "Your genetic material, your resources, your planet itself. Earth is valuable, Mason Cole, and I've stolen their plans for invasion." Mason stared at the being. He didn't know what to say. If this was true, everything he knew about the world was about to change. What's Your name? He finally asked. The being made a series of clicks and tones that Mason knew he could never say correctly. I can't pronounce that, he admitted. You may call me something else then, the voice in his head suggested. Mason noticed how the being kept looking at the wildflowers near his tent. How about Lily? He offered. Lily, the voice repeated in his mind. Simple, easy. I accept this name. Mason had so many questions. How can you speak in my mind? How do you know English? We've studied your languages for centuries, Lily explained. The mind speech is natural for my kind. Only some humans can hear it. You are rare, Mason Cole. Lucky me, Mason said, not feeling lucky at all. Night was falling again. Mason made a small fire outside the tent and heated some canned soup. He offered some to Lily, but she shook her head. I cannot process your food, she said. I will sustain myself another way. Mason watched as she held her hand up to the moonlight, her purple skin seeming to absorb the light directly. How long until these hunters find us? Mason asked. They've already begun searching. My ship's crash will draw them. We have perhaps one day before they locate us. What will they do if they find you? Lily's black eyes seemed to grow darker. They will take back what I stole. They will erase my mind, and they will scan this area for any beings I contacted. Scan? You mean me? Yes. And when they find you've received telepathic communication from me, they'll erase you too. Mason put down his soup. Erase as in kill? Worse, Lily said. They'll take everything that makes you who you are. Your body will live, but Mason Cole will be gone. Mason looked up at the night sky, at the stars that now seemed much less peaceful. Somewhere up there, aliens were hunting them. Aliens who wanted to invade Earth. It all felt impossible, like a dream. But the cool touch of Lily's hand on his arm felt very real. We need to move before dawn, she said. I have friends, allies, but we must reach them before the hunters reach us. Where do we need to go? There is a place your people call Mount Rainier. I have a signal device hidden there. Mason knew the mountain. It was about 60 miles away. That's a long journey on foot. We have no choice. Will you help me, Mason? Cole? Mason looked at the alien being sitting beside his campfire. Yesterday he'd been a normal guy on a camping trip. Today he was apparently Earth's only hope. Yes, he said. I'll help you. The town was called Pine Ridge. It was small, with just one main street lined with shops and a few side streets with houses. Early morning light gave everything a golden glow. A few people were already out, opening stores or walking dogs. Keep your head down, Mason whispered to Lily. And let me handle this. They walked down the main street, trying to look like normal travelers. Mason was aware of how they must appear. Dirty, tired, and in his case scratched up from branches. Lily's disguise was holding, but she walked stiffly, as if unused to her human form. A small diner was open. The sign in the window said Betty's Place. Mason led Lily inside. The warm smell of coffee and bacon filled the air. Sit here, Mason said, pointing to a booth in the corner. I'll get us some food. Lily slid into the seat, keeping her face partly hidden by Mason's jacket collar. Mason went to the counter where an older woman with gray hair was working. Morning, she said cheerfully. You two look like you've had quite the hike. Yeah, got a bit lost in the woods, Mason said with a smile he hoped looked natural. Is there a bus that comes through here? Our car broke down a few miles back. Bus comes at noon, the woman said. Heads to Tacoma. That help you? Perfect, Mason said. Can I get 2 coffees and some breakfast while we wait? Coming right. Up, hun. Mason paid and went back to the booth. Lily was sitting very still, watching the few other customers with wide eyes. The bus comes at noon, Mason told her quietly. That gives us about 5 hours. How's your disguise holding up? Stable for now, Lily replied in that strange mechanical voice. But I sense hunter drones approaching the town perimeter. Mason felt a chill. How many? At least 5. and a larger ship overhead. Will they come into town? Not yet. They're scanning from a distance first. The waitress brought over 2 cups of coffee. Food will be up soon. You folks heading somewhere special? Just home, Mason said. Camping trip got a little rough. I bet. Those woods can be tricky if you don't know them well. She looked at Lily with friendly curiosity. You're awful quiet, dear. Not a morning person? Lily looked at Mason in panic. He jumped in quickly. My friend lost her voice. Bad cold. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, the waitress said. I'll bring some honey with your tea. Good for the throat. When she left, Mason whispered, try to look more relaxed. Humans don't sit that stiffly. Lily adjusted her posture, leaning back slightly. This physical form is uncomfortable. How do you manage with only 2 eyes and such limited senses? We make do, Mason said with a small smile. Drink your coffee. It might help you blend in. Lily picked up the cup carefully with her 5-fingered hand. She sniffed the coffee and took a tiny sip. Her face scrunched up in disgust. Bitter plant extract, she said. Stimulant. Inefficient. Just pretend, Mason said, trying not to laugh. Their food arrived, eggs, bacon, and toast. Mason dug in, suddenly realizing how hungry he was. Lily poked at her food with a fork, not eating. You need to at least fake it, Mason whispered. Lily speared a piece of egg and lifted it, pretending to eat. Your food would poison my system, she explained quietly. Different biology. They stayed in the diner for an hour, Mason eating both their breakfasts. The place grew busier as the morning went on. No one paid them much attention, which was good. When they left, the sun was higher in the sky. Lily seemed stronger in the sunlight, her movements more fluid. They walked to the small bus stop at the edge of town and sat on the bench to wait. The drones are moving closer, Lily said after a while. They'll reach the town in approximately 2 hours. The bus comes in 1 hour. We'll make it. Perhaps. Lily looked up at the sky. The main hunter ship is still in orbit. If they identify us, they can target from space. That's comforting, Mason said sarcastically. Can they track your signal device? The one at Mount Rainier? No. It's shielded and inactive until I reach it. A police car drove slowly past the bus stop. The officer inside glanced at them as he passed. Mason tried to look casual, giving a small nod. The car continued down the road. Do you think they'll check the nearby towns? Mason asked. Yes. The Corvat are thorough. They'll use their technology to expand the search. Then we need a better plan than just sitting here. Mason thought for a moment. If they can scan for you, we need something. That blocks their scans. Like what? I don't know. Lead? That blocks radiation, right? Lily shook her head. Their scanners use quantum resonance to detect virali biosignatures. Lead would do nothing. What would block it? Water, dense rock, certain types of minerals. Mason looked around. Across the street was a hardware store. Wait here, he said. He returned a few minutes later with a shopping bag. I got some things that might help. There's an old mine shaft about 5 miles from here, according to the guy in the store. Abandoned years ago. If we can get there, maybe the rock will hide us until the drones pass. The bus would be faster, Lily pointed out, but also more visible. A bus is the first place they'd look. Lily considered this. Your reasoning is sound. The mine could provide adequate shielding. They left the bus stop and started walking out of town, following the directions Mason had been given. The road soon turned to a dirt path that wound up into the hills. The sun was directly overhead now. Lily's disguise seemed to flicker occasionally, her true purple skin showing through for brief moments. Are you okay? Mason asked. The holographic field is failing. I need to conserve energy. As soon as they were out of sight of the town, Lily let her disguise drop. Her skin returned to its natural lavender color, her eyes expanding back to their true size. That's better, she said in his mind, though now I'm more detectable. We're almost there, Mason assured her. Just a little further. The mine entrance was half hidden by overgrown bushes. A faded warning sign had been posted, but time had made it almost unreadable. Mason pushed aside the bushes and peered into the darkness. "Looks stable enough," he said. "I bought a flashlight at the store." They entered the mine carefully. The air was cool and damp. Mason switched on the flashlight, revealing a tunnel that extended into the mountain. Old wooden supports held up the ceiling at intervals. "How far should we go in?" Mason asked. "At least 100 meters. The more rock between us and the surface, the better." They walked deeper into the mine. Water dripped somewhere in the darkness. The flashlight beam cast long shadows on the rough walls. "Here," Lily said after a while. "This is sufficient depth." They sat down on a dry patch of ground. Mason took out the other items he'd bought, some water bottles, energy bars, and a space blanket. "We'll wait here until nightfall," he said, "then continue to Mount Rainier." Lily nodded. In the dim light, her purple skin seemed to glow faintly. "The drones cannot detect me through this much rock." "Good. Now we just have to hope no one decides to explore an abandoned mine today." They sat in silence for a while. The only sounds were the occasional drip of water and their breathing. "Mason," Lily said after some time, "I need to tell you something." "What is it?" "I haven't been entirely truthful with you." Mason tensed. "About what?" "About why I chose you. Why I crashed near your camp specifically." "You chose me?" I thought. "It was an accident." Lily's large eyes reflected the flashlight beam. "No accident. I scanned your planet for someone who could receive telepathic communication, someone who could help me. You were the closest match to my requirements. So I'm just convenient?" Mason felt oddly hurt. "No, you're special. Less than 1 in a million humans has the genetic markers that allow you to hear my thoughts. And even fewer would have helped an alien fugitive." "Oh." Mason wasn't sure how to feel about that. "What else haven't you told me?" Lily hesitated. "The data I stole, it's more than just invasion plans, it's the key to human evolution." "What does that mean?" "The Corvat have studied your species for centuries. They've mapped your genetic potential. The data shows how humans could advance, could develop abilities beyond your current limitations, like telepathy, like what I can do with you." "Yes. And more. Much more." Lily leaned forward. "This is why the data is so valuable and so dangerous. In the wrong hands, it could be used to control humanity's future." Mason tried to process this. It was too big, too strange to fully understand. "And you trust me with this?" "I have to trust someone," Lily said simply. "And you have shown courage and compassion, rare qualities in any species." A sudden rumbling sound came from above. Dust fell from the ceiling of the tunnel. "They're here," Lily whispered in his mind. "The hunter ship is directly overhead." They sat very still, barely breathing. The rumbling continued for several minutes, then gradually faded. "Are they gone?" Mason asked quietly. "No. They've landed nearby. They'll search on foot now." "Will they check the mine?" "Eventually, but we have time." Lily stood up. "We should move deeper. There may be another exit." They continued down the tunnel, the flashlight beam bouncing off the walls. After a few hundred feet, the main tunnel split into 2 branches. "Which way?" Mason asked. Lily closed her eyes, concentrating. "The right path feels emptier, less rock above. It might lead to the surface." They took the right tunnel. It sloped upward slightly, which seemed promising. But after walking for 20 minutes, they reached a dead end, a cave-in that completely blocked the path. "We'll have to go back and try the other way," Mason said, turning around. They started their journey before the sun came up. Mason packed only what they needed: water, some food, a small first aid kit, and a map. Lily stood near the trees looking up at the sky. "Are they up there now?" Mason asked. "Yes," Lily said, in his mind. "Their ships are in orbit. The hunter drones will begin surface scanning soon." Mason shouldered his backpack. "How do we avoid them?" "The forest canopy provides some cover. and I can mask my energy signature for short periods. Lily touched the device on her wrist. But it drains me. We must move quickly and stay hidden. They walked through the dense woods. Mason was used to hiking, but Lily moved differently. She seemed to glide over fallen logs and rocky ground. She never made a sound when she walked. "Tell me more about your people," Mason said after they had been walking for an hour. "The Virali, right?" "We are an old species," Lily replied. "We evolved on a world with 3 suns. We can absorb energy directly from light. Is that why you were shivering in my tent? Not enough light?" "Yes. Your sun is weak compared to ours. And I was injured in the crash." Mason looked at her more carefully. "Are you still hurt? I could try to help. The damage is internal. It will heal with time and light." Lily paused at the top of a small hill. "Your concern is unexpected." "Why?" "It's normal to care when someone is hurt. The Corvat told us humans were violent and selfish, that you would destroy yourselves before reaching the stars. We can be those things," Mason admitted. "But not all of us, not all the time." They continued walking. The forest was alive with morning sounds, birds singing, squirrels rustling through leaves. It was hard to believe they were being hunted by aliens. "So these Corvat," Mason said. "Why do they want to harvest Earth?" "They need resources. Their home systems were depleted centuries ago. Now they move from world to world, taking what they need." "And your people, the Virali, why do you care what happens to us?" Lily was quiet for a moment. "We believe all species have the right to determine their own path, and..." She hesitated. "Some of us have grown fond of humans." "Fond how?" "My sister lived among your people for 20 Earth years. She studied your cultures, your art, your capacity for kindness. She advocated for Earth's protection." "What happened? To her?" Lily's mental voice grew cold. "The Corvat found her. They executed her as a traitor." "I'm sorry," Mason said. He meant it. They walked in silence for a while. The sun climbed higher, filtering through the trees. Lily seemed to stand straighter as the light touched her purple skin. Around noon, they reached a river. Mason knelt to refill his water bottle. Lily stood in the sunlight, her eyes closed, absorbing the energy. "We should rest here," Mason suggested. "Just for a few minutes." Lily nodded. "A brief rest. The water will mask our trail." Mason sat on a rock and ate an energy bar. He watched. Lily stretched her long arms toward the sun, her skin glowing brighter. "That data you stole," Mason said. "What exactly is it?" "Everything. Their invasion plans, the weaknesses in their technology, information that could give Earth a fighting chance. And you're risking your life to bring it to us?" "Why?" "For my sister. And because the Corvat must be stopped. They've destroyed too many worlds already." A sudden high-pitched whine cut through the air. Lily's eyes snapped open. "Get down," she commanded. Mason ducked behind the rock. Above them, something metallic flashed between the trees. It was round and silver, about the size of a basketball. "Hunter drone," Lily whispered in his mind. "Don't move." The drone hovered over the river, scanning the water. It made another high-pitched sound, then moved downstream. "It didn't see us," Mason whispered. "It will be back. They hunt in patterns." Lily moved to his side. "We need to cross the river here and continue east. The trees are thicker there." The water was cold and fast-moving. Mason went first, testing the depth. It came up to his waist at the deepest point. He reached back to offer Lily his hand. She hesitated, then took it. Her 3 fingers wrapped around his in a strange but not unpleasant way. They were halfway across when the drone returned. This time it spotted them. It made a loud alarm sound and dropped lower. "Run!" Lily shouted in Mason's mind. They splashed through the water toward the far bank. The drone fired something, a thin beam of blue light that hit the water near them, turning it to steam instantly. They reached the shore and ran into the trees. The drone followed, weaving between branches. Lily stopped suddenly and turned. She raised her wrist device and aimed it at the drone. A pulse of energy shot out, hitting the machine. The drone sparked and fell to the ground, smoking. "Is it dead?" Mason asked, breathing hard. "Disabled, but it will have sent our location to the others." Lily lowered her arm. "We must move faster now." They pushed on through the forest. Mason's legs ached, but fear kept him moving. The sun began to set, casting long shadows. "We need to find shelter for the night," Mason said. "I can't see in the dark like you can." Lily pointed ahead. "There is a cave formation 2 kilometers in that direction. We can rest there." The cave was small but dry. Mason collected some wood and started a tiny fire, just enough for light and a little warmth. Lily sat across from him, her black eyes reflecting the flames. "Will more drones come tonight?" Mason asked. "Yes, but they have difficulty tracking in darkness. Their sensors are primarily visual." Mason took out his map. "How much farther to Mount Rainier?" "At our current pace, 2 more days of travel. 2 days of being hunted." Mason wasn't sure they would make it. He folded the map and put it away. "You should sleep," Lily said. "I will keep watch." "Don't you need to sleep too?" "My species requires less rest than yours. I recharged enough in the sunlight today." Mason hesitated, then laid down near the fire. He was exhausted, but his mind was racing. "Lily," he said after a while, "if we make it to Mount Rainier, what happens then?" "My extraction team will take me back to my people. The data will be analyzed and a delegation will be sent to your world leaders." "And me? What happens to me?" Lily looked at him across the fire. "You will be remembered, Mason Cole. Your name will be known among the stars as the human who helped save his world." "That's not what I meant. Will I see you again?" There was a long pause before Lily answered. "The path ahead is uncertain, but I hope so." Mason closed his eyes. He dreamed of purple skin and stars that seemed close enough to touch. He woke to Lily's hand on his shoulder. It was still dark outside. "We must go," she said urgently in his mind. "They've found us." Mason grabbed his backpack and followed her, out of the cave. The night sky was clear and full of stars. And among those stars, 3 lights moved in formation. Lights that were definitely not stars. "Ships," Mason whispered. "Yes. Larger hunter craft. They've called for reinforcements." They ran through the dark forest. Lily led the way, guiding Mason around obstacles he could barely see. Branches scratched his face, but he kept moving. Behind them, a beam of light cut through the trees. Then another. The ships were scanning the forest. "This way." Lily pulled Mason toward a dense thicket. They crawled inside, pressing themselves into the dirt. A ship passed directly overhead. Its searchlight swept across the ground just feet from where they hid. Mason held his breath. After what seemed like an eternity, the light moved on. "That was too close," Mason whispered. "They know we're in this area," Lily said. "We need to change our plan." "How?" "There's a human settlement 30 kilometers east of here. A small town. We could blend in there, find transportation." "You want to go into a town? Looking like that?" Mason gestured at her purple skin and alien features. "I can adjust my appearance. For short periods." Lily touched her wrist device again. Her skin rippled and changed, becoming a pale human tone. Her eyes shrank and developed whites and green irises. Her fingers shifted from 3 to 5. Mason stared in amazement. "How did you do that?" "Light manipulation. A holographic field. It won't fool their scanners, but it will fool human eyes." The disguise was good, but something about it still seemed off. Lily didn't move quite right. Her expressions weren't quite human. "We'll have to be careful," Mason said. "Don't talk to anyone. Let me do the talking. I can't maintain this form for long. 6 hours at most. Then we'd better hurry." They left their hiding place and changed direction, heading east. The night was getting colder. Mason gave Lily his jacket, which she accepted gratefully. "Your temperature regulation is inefficient," she commented. Mason laughed despite their situation. That's one way to put it. They walked all night. As dawn approached, they could see lights in the distance, the small town Lily had mentioned. It looked peaceful, normal. People there had no idea that alien ships were searching the forests. Nearby, remember, Mason said as they approached the town's edge. Act normal. Follow my lead. Lily nodded. In the growing light, her disguise looked better than it had in the darkness. She could pass for human now, though an unusual-looking one. Are you ready? Mason asked. Yes, Lily said, this time speaking aloud for the first time. Her voice sounded slightly mechanical but passable. I'm ready. The ceiling of the cave seemed to dissolve, turning transparent. Through it, Mason could see a ship hovering above, larger than the hunter drones but smaller than the craft that had been chasing them. It was sleek and silver with the same strange patterns that had been on Lily's crashed ship. The drones scattered, firing wildly at the new threat. Their energy beams seemed to hit an invisible barrier around the Virali ship, dissipating harmlessly. A beam of silver light shot down from the ship, engulfing Mason and Lily. The drones, the cave, the mountain itself. Everything began to fade away. Mason felt weightless, as if he were floating. Then suddenly they were somewhere else. A room with curved walls that seemed to glow from within. The floor was smooth and slightly springy beneath Mason's feet. The air smelled different, clean but with a hint of something sweet and unfamiliar. Lily. Two figures rushed forward. They were like Lily, tall with purple skin and large black eyes. They spoke in a language Mason couldn't understand, a series of musical tones and clicks. Lily responded weakly. One of the figures was examining her now, using a device that emitted soft pulses of light. The other turned to Mason. You are the human who helped her. The voice spoke directly into his mind, just as Lily's had. It was deeper, with a different rhythm. I am Tarek, her brother. Is she going to be okay? Mason asked immediately. Her physical form is badly damaged, but our healers will do what they can. Tarek's large eyes studied Mason. You risked much to help her. She's risking everything to help my planet. Yes, like our sister before her. Tarek gestured to another figure who had entered the room. This is Varen, our expedition leader. Varen was taller than the others, with markings on his face that reminded Mason of tribal tattoos. His mental voice was powerful, resonating in Mason's head. The data, Varen said without preamble. Does she have it? Mason hesitated, his hand closing around the crystal device Lily had given him. Something felt wrong. Varen's tone, the urgency in his question. It didn't match the mission Lily had described. Mason. Lily's voice, weak but clear, came from behind him. Don't. He turned. Lily was trying to sit up despite the protests of the healer attending her. Don't give it to him, she continued. He's not here to help Earth. Varen made a sharp gesture. Two more Virali appeared, moving to restrain Lily. What's going on? Mason demanded, backing away. Politics, Tarek said, sounding disgusted. Our people are divided. Some, like Varen, believe the Corvat approach is correct. That advanced species have the right to harvest resources from primitive worlds. And you? We believe all sentient life deserves the chance to evolve naturally, but we are currently outvoted. Varen stepped forward. The data, human. Now. No, Mason said, gripping the crystal tighter. I won't let you help invade my planet. You have no choice. Varen raised a hand. The two guards who had been restraining, Lily now moved toward Mason. Wait, Lily called out. The data is coded to his genetic signature. Only he can access it now. Mason tried not to show his surprise at the lie. Varen paused, considering. Is this true? He asked Mason. Yes, Mason said firmly. Only I can use it. Varen's eyes narrowed. Then you will use it for us. I'll die first. That can be arranged, Varen said coldly. But it would be wasteful. A sudden commotion erupted from another part of the ship. Alarms, voices shouting in the Virali language. Varen turned, distracted. Tarek moved quickly to Mason's side. Corvette ships, he whispered in Mason's mind. They've found us. We need to leave orbit immediately. What about Earth? The data? There's no time. We must jump to hyperspace or be destroyed. The ship lurched. Mason nearly fell, catching himself against a wall that felt warm and almost alive under his hand. Take us to the escape pods, Lily said, struggling to her feet. The healer tried to stop her, but she pushed past. You're too weak to travel, Tarek protested. I'm too weak to survive anyway, Lily replied. Get Mason to safety. The data must reach Earth's leaders. Another violent shake rocked the ship. Lights flickered. Hull breach in Section 3, a voice announced in the Virali language, though somehow Mason understood it. Corvette boarding parties detected. The main hangar is lost, Tarek said. The escape pods are our only option now. Varen had disappeared, presumably to deal with the Corvette attack. The guards were gone too. Tarek led them through winding corridors. The ship continued to shake. Twice they had to change course to avoid sections where fighting had broken out. Here, Tarek said finally, stopping at a small door. It slid open, to reveal a pod about the size of a minivan. This will take you back to Earth's surface. Both of us? Mason asked. Yes. I've programmed it for a remote landing site. Tarek helped Lily into the pod. She was barely conscious now, her skin so pale it was almost white. What about you? Mason asked Tarek. I will try to buy you time. He pressed something into Mason's hand. Another device, smaller than the data crystal. This will allow you to contact us. When it's safe, the Corvette will follow us to Earth. Not immediately. The pod has stealth capabilities and they'll be busy with this ship for a while. Another explosion rocked the vessel. Alarms blared louder. Go, Tarek urged. Now. Mason climbed into the pod beside Lily. The door sealed shut. Through the small window he saw Tarek touch a panel on the wall. Then there was a hiss, a sensation of movement, and the Virali ship was gone. The pod was automated, requiring no input from Mason. Stars streaked past the small window as they accelerated away from the battle. Beside him, Lily's breathing was shallow. Hang on, he told her. We're going home. My home. I'm sorry, she whispered in his mind, for involving you in this. Don't be. I'm not. The data. You must get it to your leaders. Someone who will understand its importance. I will, but first we need to get you help. Lily's laugh in his mind was weak. Your doctors can't help me, my biology is too different. Then we'll contact your people. The ones who agree with you, not Varen. Perhaps. She didn't sound convinced. The pod began to heat up as they entered Earth's atmosphere. The ride grew bumpy. Mason held onto Lily's hand, trying to keep her stable. Where are we landing? He asked. Near a city called Seattle. Tarek chose it because my sister lived there once with her human mate. Your sister married a human? Yes. It caused quite a scandal. Lily's mental voice was fading. His name is Daniel Frost. He works for your government. He can help you. The pod shuddered violently as they descended through clouds. Rain lashed the small window. Through breaks in the cloud cover, Mason could see the green landscape of the Pacific Northwest below. The landing was smoother than Mason expected. The pod set down in what appeared to be a dense forest. When the door slid open, cool, damp air rushed in. The smell of pine and wet earth was a stark contrast to the sterile environment of the Virali ship. Mason climbed out first, then gently helped Lily. She could barely stand, leaning heavily against him. Which way? He asked. Lily pointed weakly. There's a road 2 kilometers in that direction. It leads to a small town. Can you make it that far? I have to. They walked slowly through the forest. Rain dripped from the pine branches above. Under different circumstances, it might have been a pleasant hike. Now it was a desperate journey against time. Lily grew weaker with each step. Twice she nearly collapsed, and Mason had to carry her. By the time they reached the road, the sun was setting. "What's the plan?" Mason asked as they rested at the roadside. "How do we find this Daniel Frost?" "The communication device Tarek gave you. It contains Earth contact protocols." Mason took out the small device. It was smooth and oval, with no obvious buttons or controls. "How does it work?" "Place your thumb on the center." Mason did so. The device warmed in his hand, then projected a small holographic display. Numbers scrolled across it, finally settling on a sequence that looked like a phone number. "That's Daniel's secure line," Lily explained. "Memorize it, then destroy the device." "Destroy it? Why?" "It contains virali technology. If the wrong people found it..." Mason nodded, understanding. He committed the number to memory, then smashed the device against a rock. It crumbled to dust surprisingly easily. "Now what?" "Now we need to find a phone." They followed the road toward the lights of a small town visible in the distance. Lily's condition continued to deteriorate. Her skin was now almost transparent, and she could barely walk even with Mason's help. As they approached the town, Lily activated her disguise again, the holographic field that made her appear human. It flickered unstably, but would hopefully pass a casual inspection. The town was small, just a main street with a few businesses and houses scattered around. A diner, still open, looked promising. "Wait here," Mason told Lily, helping her sit on a bench outside a closed shop. "I'll find a phone." The diner was warm and bright. A few customers looked up as Mason entered, then returned to their meals. He was aware of how he must appear. Dirty, exhausted, clothes torn from days in the wilderness. The waitress approached warily. "Can I help you?" "I need to use a phone. It's an emergency." She hesitated, then nodded toward a payphone near the restrooms. "That one works. You need quarters?" "Yes, please." She gave him some change from the register. Mason thanked her and went to the phone. His hands shook as he dialed the number. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Mason was beginning to lose hope when someone answered. "Frost." The voice was cautious. The fall seemed to last forever. Mason tumbled through darkness, unable to tell which way was up. Rocks and dirt fell with them. Then he hit water, cold and shocking. The impact knocked the air from his lungs. He fought his way to the surface, gasping. It was pitch black. He couldn't see anything. "Lily?" he called out, his voice echoing strangely. "Lily, where are you?" "Here." Her voice in his mind was weaker than before. "To your left." Mason swam in that direction, his arms sweeping. Through the cold water, his hand touched something, Lily's arm. He grabbed hold of her. "Are you hurt?" he asked. "Damaged, but functional." She sounded tired. "We appear to have fallen into an underground water system. I can't see anything. Do you have night vision or something?" "Yes, but it's limited without energy. I can see shapes, movement." There was a pause. "There's a ledge about 10 meters to our right. We should get out of the water." Mason kept hold of Lily's arm as they swam. The water was cold and had a mineral taste. His flashlight was gone, lost in the fall. They reached the ledge Lily had spotted. Mason pulled himself up onto the stone surface, then helped Lily. They lay there for a moment, catching their breath. "At least we lost the drone," Mason said finally. "Temporarily. They're persistent. Where are we?" "An underground cave system. The mine must have broken through to it at some point." Mason sat up, wringing water from his shirt. "So we're even more lost now." "Great." "Not necessarily. Water flows. This stream must lead somewhere, like out of the mountain? Possibly. It's our best option." They rested for a few minutes. Mason's eyes began to adjust slightly to the darkness. He could make out Lily's shape beside him and the faint gleam of water. "Can you walk?" he asked. "Yes." The water helped. "My species absorbs water through our skin." They stood up carefully on the slippery rock. Lily took Mason's hand to guide him. "Stay close to the wall," she advised. The ledge continues alongside the water. They moved slowly in the darkness, feeling their way along the rough stone wall. The sound of running water echoed around them. Occasionally they heard dripping from above. "How far to Mount Rainier now?" Mason asked after they had been walking, for what felt like hours. "If we could travel directly, perhaps 30 kilometers. But underground, it's impossible to say. And your extraction team? Will they still be able to find you?" "The beacon will guide them. But I must activate it soon. My time is limited." "What do you mean?" Lily was quiet for a moment. "The crash damaged more than just my ship. My physical form is deteriorating." Mason stopped walking. "You're dying?" "Not immediately, but yes, eventually without proper medical care." "Why didn't you tell me? It wasn't relevant to our mission." "Not relevant?" Mason felt a surge of anger. "Of course it's relevant. We need to get you help." "The data is what matters, Mason. Not me." They continued walking in silence. Mason's mind raced. He had known Lily for less than 2 days, yet the thought of her dying bothered him deeply. After a while, they noticed a change in the air. It felt fresher, less stale, and there was a faint glow ahead. "Light," Mason said. "Natural light, I think." They moved faster now. The glow grew stronger. Finally, they rounded a bend in the passage and saw it, an opening in the rock wall where the underground stream flowed out into daylight. The exit was small, just big enough for a person to squeeze through. The stream poured out through it, dropping several feet to a pool below. Beyond that, they could see trees and sky. "We made it," Mason said, relief flooding through him. "Wait." Lily held up a hand. "We should be cautious. The drones may be searching this area." They approached the opening carefully. Mason peered out. They were on the side of the mountain, the cave opening hidden by bushes. Below them was a forested valley. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. "I don't see anything suspicious," Mason said. "No drones, no ships. They may be hiding, using stealth technology. We can't stay in this cave forever. We have to risk it." Lily nodded. "You're right, but we move carefully." They squeezed through the opening one at a time, Mason going first. The drop to the pool below wasn't far, but the rocks were slippery. Mason lowered himself as much as possible before letting go. He splashed into the pool, which was thankfully deep enough to break his fall. Lily followed, more graceful despite her injuries. Her purple skin gleamed in the sunset light. They climbed out of the pool and took stock of their surroundings. The mountain rose behind them. Ahead, the forest stretched into the distance. "Which way to Mount Rainier?" Mason asked. Lily pointed northeast. "That direction. But we need to be careful. The forest isn't as dense here. We'll be more visible." They started walking, staying close to the trees for cover. The fading light made it harder to see where they were going, but Lily's night vision helped guide them. As darkness fell completely, the stars came out. Mason looked up at them, wondering which one was Lily's home. "Is your star up there somewhere?" he asked. "Yes, though you can't see it with your naked eye. It's too distant." "What's it like? Your home?" "Beautiful. 3 suns make the sky change colors throughout the day. Gold to purple to deep red. Our cities are built to capture light. The buildings look like they're made of crystal." "Sounds amazing." "It is, but we have our problems too. The Corvette War has lasted for generations." They walked in silence for a while. The forest was alive with night sounds. Insects chirping, the occasional hoot of an owl. It felt peaceful, which seemed strange given their situation. After several hours of walking, they needed to rest. They found a small clearing surrounded by thick bushes and sat down. "How much farther?" Mason asked, his legs aching from the long day. "We've covered perhaps 10 kilometers. Still 20 to go. So another full day of travel." "Yes, if we're not delayed." Mason leaned back against a tree trunk. Despite everything, he was exhausted. His eyes kept closing. "You should sleep," Lily said. "I'll keep watch. Wake me in a few hours. You need rest too." I'll be fine. The starlight helps, though it's weak.
Mason wanted to argue, but fatigue overcame him. He was asleep within minutes. He dreamed of strange worlds with 3 suns and cities made of crystal. He dreamed of Lily showing him these places, her hand in his as they walked through alien landscapes.
Touch on his shoulder woke him. It was still dark, but a faint glow on the horizon suggested dawn wasn't far off. "What is it?" he asked, instantly alert. "Listen," Lily said. At first, Mason heard nothing unusual. Then he caught it, a faint mechanical hum growing louder. Drones? Yes, many of them. They're sweeping the forest in a search pattern. The sound was coming closer. Mason got to his feet, heart pounding. "What do we do?" "We need to move. Now." Lily was already standing. "They're between us and Mount Rainier. So we go around them? No time. We go through." "Through? Are you crazy? They'll be spread thin to cover more ground. We might find a gap in their formation." It was a desperate plan, but Mason couldn't think of a better one. They started moving quickly through the trees, heading northeast. The humming sound grew louder, coming from multiple directions now. They reached the edge of a small clearing and stopped. Above the trees on the far side, 3 drones hovered, their lights scanning the forest floor. "We can't cross that," Mason whispered. "They'll see us for sure." "We need a distraction." Lily looked around, then pointed to a fallen branch. "That branch. Throw it as far as you can to the west." Mason picked up the branch. It was heavy, but he managed to hurl it a good distance. It crashed through the trees with a satisfying amount of noise. The effect was immediate. 2 of the drones zoomed toward the sound, lights flashing. The third remained in place but turned its attention in that direction. "Now," Lily whispered. "Stay low and move fast." They darted across the clearing, keeping as low as possible. Mason's heart was in his throat. If the remaining drone turned back now, they'd be completely exposed. They made it to the trees on the other side just as the drone began to turn. They pressed themselves against a large trunk, hardly daring to breathe. The drone's light passed just feet from where they stood, then moved on. "That was too close," Mason said when it was safe to speak again. "We were fortunate. But there are more ahead." They continued through the forest, stopping frequently to avoid drone patrols. The sky grew lighter as dawn approached. Soon, they would lose the cover of darkness. "There," Lily said suddenly, pointing ahead. "Do you see it?" At first, Mason didn't see anything unusual. Then he realized, through a gap in the trees, he could make out the snow-covered peak of a mountain. Mount Rainier. "We're close," he said. "Yes. The beacon is located on the northwestern slope, in a cave similar to the one we escaped from." New energy filled Mason. They were going to make it. The data would be safe. Earth would have a chance. The forest began to thin as they started up the slope of the mountain. There were fewer places to hide now, which made them more cautious. The drones seemed less numerous here, but that didn't mean they were safe. "How will your team find us?" Mason asked as they climbed. "The beacon creates a quantum link. It's undetectable by Corvat technology, but visible to Virali ships. And after they find us, what happens then?" Lily was quiet for a moment. "You'll be taken to safety. The data will go to my people. They'll contact your world leaders. And you? Will you go back to your world?" "Yes, if I survive the extraction." Mason stopped walking. "What do you mean, if?"